On you. Hello and welcome to the 66 Hum Sixes Minutes of Heaven we call the D1Baseball Podcast. I am your host, Michael Patrick Rooney. Tonight's episode brought to us by our good friends at S2 Cognition. S2 Cognition delivers a revolutionary approach to helping athletes understand how in-game decisions impact their performance from youth levels all the way to the pros. We are also sponsored tonight by our good friends at Pitch Logic, the system used by players, coaches, scouts, and instructors at all levels of play, from youth leagues to the big leagues. It's easy to use and affordable technology. It makes the platform accessible to every player at every level. All the metrics, features used at the highest level of the sport. See pitchlogic.com for more information. Pitchlogic.com. As always, joined by the great Kendall J. Rogers, Zebby Barrels, Aaron J. Fitt, Joseph J. Healy. Gentlemen, very special occasion this evening. This is the podcast regarding the release of the preseason rankings. And we're going to have to be expeditious. We only have 66 minutes to play with. And I want to get to the inane banter quickly. I'll go last. What is your favorite part of preseason rankings reaction? Is it a GIF? Is it a emoji? Is it a bit emoji? Is it no hashtag no credibility? Kendall, you are the GIF king. What is your favorite preseason ranking reaction?
I always kind of use the Antonio Banderas thing where he's kind of like looking at the computer screen and then kind of leans back in his chair. That's kind of my go-to. But I mean, obviously I got to go with you clearly hate our team. Nothing says we hate your team like having them fifth in the country in the preseason, which has happened before. We've had a team ranked fifth in the country going into the season, and fans thought we hated their team. So that's a very high bar, people.
Bless their hearts. Joseph, how about you? Favorite rankings reaction?
Well, are we talking about other people's reactions? Like the feedback we would get on it?
Yeah, sure. I would say for me, I'm going to give you what I like. I like to get ahead of it. I like to join in the angst, even though I participate in the ranking. And I'm going to share the genesis of my favorite GIF to that end. But wherever you want to go, Josephus, take us there.
I just have like a pretty hard and fast rule that I just don't look at the reaction. Like that's just kind of my, like, I know it's a boring answer, but like
abstinence.
You could
like boring
into the void all you want. Like it's fine by me. And I get it. Like I'm not making fun. I'm just saying like, but people are going to react and that's totally fine. I mean, they're fans and I was, I've been a fan before. I get it. But I just, it's better for my mental health if I just don't look at it. So.
Yeah. So Joe, when the power rankings for CBS Sports comes out for the South Bend Fantasy Football League, and the Carrots are just perennially underrated, and I'm screaming, "You're not listening." I'm just screaming at my own screen, is what you're telling me.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. Fair. Very fair. Very mature response. Fitzy, what say you?
I actually, believe it or not, over the years, I've adopted the same approach as Joe. I'm not even going to look. You can complain all you want. I'm not going to look at the Twitter mentions tomorrow. I'm not interested. Love you guys, listeners. You guys are the best, but it's just too much. Top 25 day. I can't. It's a deluge.
You guys just send everybody to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're the Twitter king. I'm out on Twitter, but I will say this, you guys. The sign. You guys are biased. That's my favorite. Biased. Misspelled with a T. That's still never been topped.
I will be on a flight cross country tomorrow when the rankings come out. We're taping on Monday, and so I'm looking forward to it. Kendall, you're right. You're Antonio Bandera. That is the greatest GIF. I like to get ahead of it and throw gas on the fire, and I have that Housewives GIF where she's being held back by her friend, and she's screaming, "How dare you!" I love the irrational anger towards the rankings. I absolutely love it. Joe, you'll be proud. This helped me research this lady because I was trying to find the GIF. Her name is Taylor Armstrong. Mm-hmm. She was born Shauna Lynette Hughes. I'm having a tough time putting that together. She's the first American housewife to transfer franchises. I mean, how appropriate is that for college sports?
Wow.
She's the first portal housewife. She was originally on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and she was traded, or I should say transferred to Orange County Housewives. So there you go.
Wow.
You go, Taylor Armstrong.
Runes, I'm disappointed that you did not pull out the Burning Man GIF. Remember, was it 2 years ago you used the Burning Man GIF, I think, every day?
Oh yes. Now that's for special occasions. That's the best.
Yeah.
Hey, Runes, I'm going to challenge. I think the first wife swap, I guess you would say, the first portal example of housewives came in 1972 with the Yankees when pitchers Fritz Peterson and Mike Kekich swapped wives, children's, and dogs. A real thing that happened.
What?
A real thing that happened.
Like it was planned, or
they just decided they liked each other's families better, and so they just switched.
What?
They just totally switched.
Fitzy, is that what your Android is trying to tell you right now? That feels like not even close to the truth.
That is
I'm kind of disturbed that you know the story.
I've heard that story. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm familiar with this.
Interesting.
By the way, I will to give a better answer than what I gave. Although the answer I gave first was absolutely truth. I do appreciate, to Aaron's point, all the different incorrect usages of the word biased, because you get the biased with a T. You also get people telling us that you are bias, BIAS.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Because they don't know that it's supposed to be biased. You are bias. So, which I don't know what the embodiment of bias looks like, but
it means you're living in bias, Joe. It's so egregious that you
are so biased. You're
soaked in bias. Yes,
that's right. That's right.
Yes. So perfect segue. Let us soak ourselves in bias right now. What we're going to do is we're going to go around the horn, and we are going to go through the top 25. And we have rules. The rule is this: we want you to. This is the first of many conversations about ranked and unranked teams. And so what we want to do is we want to just give a theme for the team, something that jumps out, and then a maximum of 3 players can be called out. So we are not going to just drown ourselves in player names. We're going to try to keep it to 3. We're going to keep it to 3 per team. And then we each get a challenge flag. If there's a player that we just absolutely want to throw into a team, throw your red towel, jump in there. We each get 1 challenge as we go around the horn.
I feel like Runes, real quick. I apologize.
Joe, please.
Just to make sure we're out there, and either you can correct me or this will be a clarifying point for all the listeners. We're not necessarily calling out the 3 best players on the team.
Correct.
Like it could be players that are involved in the theme that we're talking about. It could be, whatever, but it's not necessarily us power ranking the players in the roster. At least that's how I'm.
It could be. I only remember 3 player names at this point, Joe. I mean, it's middle of January.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Like, yes. No, you're correct. It's not your not like in hockey, first, second, and third star of the game. This could be anywhere you want to go. So Fitzy, I believe you have the number 1 overall pick. Would you like to announce your team, the theme, and 3 players, please?
Yes. Congratulations to the Wake Forest Demon Deacons.
Deke Day.
Hashtag Deke Day.
Hey now.
Preseason top 25 day is Deke Day. This is certainly an exciting time for Deke Nation. The theme here, boys, starting pitching. Let me keep this simple. 3 names: Josh Hartle, Chase Burns, Michael Massey. It's as good as it gets. The best rotation in college baseball. I'm going to give you a half stop, not a full stop, because I think Arkansas is right there with them. But that's the reason why Wake Forest, the biggest reason why Wake Forest is the team to beat in college baseball this year, is despite losing Rhett Lauder, like a legendary ACC pitcher, really one of the most accomplished pitchers, I would say, of this era. They're probably better on the mound. Is that possible? I think they might be. I mean, that rotation is, it's very good. I mean, I think their bullpen, they lost a couple of things there too, but the rotation is elite. And so that's why today is Deke Day.
Yep. 3 players is hard already, but we will be talking about Wake until we're blue in the face too. I mean, it's amazing. In 24 months ago, time machine, if I had told you that Wake Forest was going to be the number 1 team in the land in preseason, we would have all arrested ourselves. I mean, what a transformation by that program. It's really, really cool. Joe, take us to number 2, please.
First off, Aaron, thank you for wishing me a happy Deke Day. However, I prefer to celebrate privately. Thank you for respecting my boundaries. So I've got the number 2 team in the country, which is the Florida Gators. One of the big themes here is young pitching talent. They are, stop me if you've heard this before, just resplendent with young pitching talent. So, but one name has to be Jack Caglione. Anytime you have a guy who could reasonably be the best hitter and the best pitcher in the country, like, that's not a hot take to say that. If he throws more strikes, like, he could be that guy. So that's one guy. We can't not talk about that. Liam Peterson, to me, is the young pitcher to watch. There's a handful of guys around the country that stand out, as many of them in the SEC, of, hey, this could be the best freshman pitcher in the country. Liam Peterson is one of those guys. He's going to be in the rotation from day one. And then on the position player side, Colby Shelton, the Alabama transfer, they're going to give him a shot at shortstop. And he wasn't a great third baseman. So, I'm a little dubious necessarily of him being an acceptable defensive player at shortstop, but he has improved his body. He's looking a little leaner, a little more agile. And frankly, he probably just has to be passable to make it worth their while, right? I mean, because he's going to hit 20 plus home runs, or at least that's the expectation. And as long as he's not a butcher over there, like, you'll kind of live with that. So I'm probably judging on too harsh a curve there, but that will certainly be something interesting to watch because, Florida, pretty solid defensive club, or at least has been. Their team that doesn't typically beat themselves. So that could be something to watch there, but run prevention should be a strength.
Man, and they're going to hit 1 million home runs. Florida's going to be fun. Man, the 3 players at the top of the list here is hard because these teams are so good. But again, we will, first of many conversations, I have the Arkansas Razorbacks at number 3. The theme is, I'll use 2 words, pedigree and pitching, right? This has become one of the most trustable programs in America. And as Fitzy alluded to, they are loaded on the mounds. And as I do my 3 players, I'll start with Hagen Smith. Joe, to kind of steal what you said there a little bit, there's a world in which Hagen Smith is the first pitcher taken in the draft this July. I mean, there's a world in which he's the national pitcher of the year. It's a left-hander who's been through a lot of wars, who's up to 100 miles an hour. A second name I'll give you guys is Mason Molina, has transferred in from Texas Tech. He finished the year as Texas Tech's Friday night arm. You could argue that Kyle Robinson kind of was pitching a tick better than him, but Mason Molina was really the Friday night arm for Texas Tech at the end. And he's going to be the Sunday guy for Arkansas. So that's kind of where the depth of Arkansas's rotation is. The hitter name I want to give you, I'm going to give you several, but I have to give you one. Kendall Diggs is such an Arkansas player. Like, he's just so good. He's the at-bat you want with the game on the line at the end. I don't know what he is as a prospect. He's a little bit positionless. He's probably fine in the outfield, but who cares? This is a left-handed hitter who can just absolute barrel up anything. He's just a really a winning hitter in the middle of your order. So there are your Arkansas Razorbacks. K. Rizzle. Oh, I jumped out of order? No, we're good.
Do what?
We're zigzagging.
Okay. I've got number 4 LSU. Obviously, this is a really interesting season for them. Obviously, won the national championship last year, had 2 absolute superstars in Dylan Cruz and Paul Skeens, and both those guys are gone now. And I think if you look, especially looking in the outfield with Dylan Cruz gone, keep an eye on Jake Brown, a talented freshman. He is a day one superstar impact kind of guy. Just exceptional athlete, great speed, really good bat to ball skills, big time power potential. I think he's a kid that's going to have a great year as a freshman. I think if you look at the LSU on the mound without Skeens, I think a lot of eyeballs kind of go to a guy like Thatcher Hurd. If you look at the job that Hurd did down the stretch last year, it was more of what we kind of expected from him when he transferred to LSU. It was fastball to 95. Big time slider, even going back to last fall, it was still the best spin rate I've seen on a breaking ball over the last year. So, he's a guy that's going to probably step in that Friday role. So that's going to be a big key for LSU to see what he does. And I'll also give you a third name of a kid who, may not be, an innings eater from day one, but I think as the season progresses and Nate Yeske, the new pitching coach, and Jay Johnson get a little bit more comfortable with him, keep an eye on Cam Johnson. He's probably one of the top 2 or 3, kids to end up in school, turn down millions essentially to go to college at LSU. And you're talking about a lefty up to 98, 99, big time stuff. But LSU's not going to rush him in there right off the bat. But again, as the season progresses, I think he's going to get more and more innings. And I think as you look ahead to the potential postseason run, he's a kid that could really factor into the equation. So just because of just his sheer raw talent, keep an eye on Cam Johnson. But again, there is no honeymoon in Baton Rouge, and Jay Johnson knows this. This is a team won the national championship last year. Jay Johnson was hitting the transfer portal hard right after the season was over, and now they expect to win their yet another national championship.
Kendall, to your point, just the fact that we have LSU preseason ranked number 4 Jay Johnson may wake up to a for sale sign on his house. Like that is how quick the honeymoon is.
They're definitely going to say that we hate their team.
Kendall's going to wake up with a for sale sign in his house. There's going to be a mob of LSU fans waiting outside.
The Cajun Mafia is going to come get me.
Oh, that's great. Hey, can we introduce a character? It's the start of a new year. From now on, Coach Yeski, who we think so highly of, will be referred to as Coach Nathan. Let's just get the audience in on that. Coach Nate Yeski of Oregon State, Texas A&M, and LSU fame, one of the best pitching coaches in the game. That'll be Coach Nathan from now on. Everyone good there?
Yeah.
Hey, Rents,
right.
can I break a rule and just mention 2 more names real quick?
No, you cannot. No, you cannot. We have 25 teams to get
out
through.
Of here.
You have a whole season
I want
to do
somebody
that.
to challenge me. So the
you already mentioned like 7 names if you count.
No,
Cruz
look at him
Skeens.
cheating. He's sliding Gage jump in there.
Cruz and Skeens don't count. They're not on the team.
Next.
That was your
My
4th
turn.
and 5th team.
Yeah, whatever. Nobody wants to hear you talk.
Yes.
Chippy tonight.
I like it. It is the preseason. Too many inter squads. We're ready for a different colored jersey. Fitzy, take us to number 5.
Yeah. So
man.
we're talking about the TCU Horned Frogs. I think there's a whole lot to like about this team. Like a lot of people, I think I'm all in on Anthony Silva at shortstop. Just a really, really exciting player. The freshman last year, he just looks the part defensively. The way he moves, he just looks like a pro. He's so smooth. He hit for more power last year than I thought he would, but there's some bat speed there. He's athletic. He's a fun player, and I'm excited about the possibility of him teaming with my guy Peyton Chatinier over at second base in the middle infield there. Just a winning baseball player, and I know the last couple of years maybe haven't been up to what he hoped, but like he's a ball of energy. He's just a lot of fun. He's a guy that makes you go. He's going to churn out at bats. He's going to play good defense. I think that's a really nice kind of underrated addition. People are going to talk a lot more about Peyton Tolley. That's my 3rd name from Wichita State. I believe it's pronounced Tolley.
Tolley. I think I go with Tolley. Yeah, let's do that.
I've heard it so many different ways over the last 3 years, but I'm going to stick to my guns and say Tolley. I'm going to stick with it. We can settle this later.
Yeah, but his Twitter handle is like Roly Toly. So it makes no sense.
That's good reporting right there, KR.
That's
well
good
done.
reporting. I might have to stand down. Oh man, God, nothing ruins my
either
day.
it's
like
great
reporting,
it's either great reporting or I'm a massive dork. One of the two.
No, that's
maybe
well
it's
done.
Raleigh Tolley, like Raleigh Fingers. Maybe that's
yeah, it could be. Actually,
Speaking of
that's not a bad
media,
rebuttal.
I'm looking at the
pretty
bet board and it says Raj 1, Fitzy 0. Goodness gracious.
I thought his rebuttal was actually pretty good.
Yeah, thank you.
It was good.
Best 2-way player in the country. And, I think it will translate to the Big 12 from Wichita State. I mean, it's just, he's a monster, guys. He's just I love, Kendall likes to make the comparison to Luke and Baker just physically. I think he's got that. Yeah. It's not Luke and Baker's, pure stuff on the mound. And I don't know that it's Luke and Baker's raw power, but it certainly is real power. And it is certainly a lot of pitchability. And he's already a star and he's going to make them a lot better.
I love it. Kendall, you just made, and the other thing about Tolley is I love Joe's expression. That's TCU doing big game hunting in the portal, right? Yeah. Like any SEC program would have taken Tolley. I love.
And they almost had Chase Burns, by the way.
Really?
Well, Chase Burns is very close to going to TCU as well.
I love that. And now that I know that Twitter can be a place where I can go get pronunciations, like we are really getting better right now. Who's up?
Can I throw the challenge flag on TCU?
You can. You get one of them. If that's this early in the game, you want to challenge something.
Yeah, I mean, do I have anything to lose?
No, nothing. Can't take them home with you.
Yeah, exactly.
How many do we get?
Yeah, how many do we get?
1.
That's it?
We got 66 minutes. We're burning a hole in it.
All right, I'll challenge? I'm not going to waste my challenge flag on Bennett Belt, so continue.
It's too easy.
Kendall, there's so much.
Like what I did there? I dropped the name.
Yeah, that's your second such violation right now.
He's Nick Lodolo 2.0. It's low-hanging fruit. We don't need to talk about it. He's awesome.
I don't know if he's Nick Lodolo.
That's what I said. I mean it.
Okay.
Yeah,
no
more standing down.
I have the number 6 Vanderbilt Commodores.
Joe's like, yeah, we're just going to continue.
I just burst through like the Kool-Aid man there. Number 6 Vanderbilt Commodores. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about their pitching. So the one name I'm going to throw out there is Ethan McIlvain. I talked about Liam Peterson. Kendall talked about Cam Johnson. Ethan McIlvain is in that mix of like best freshman arms in the country. I saw him in the fall and he was electric. Roll TBD. Part of that's because Vanderbilt has impressive pitching depth. So, we'll see on him, but man, the stuff is right there. Brother of Chris McIlvain, very different pitcher. Chris McIlvain, kind of a short-ish righty, good stuff. Ethan McIlvain, big, tall lefty with just throw it past you stuff. So looking forward to seeing him on the field. But the thing with Vanderbilt is their ceiling is probably going to be controlled by how much they get from their offense. So a couple names there. One is freshman Braden Holcomb. And defensively, I'm not sure where he fits. Could he be a DH? I know some evaluators have concerns about swing and miss, but he's got the best raw power on the club. And this is a team that lost RJ Schreck and didn't really have that much power to begin with last year. They need somebody who can hit the ball out of the ballpark. I don't want to say need. I guess theoretically they could do without it, but it would be nice if they had someone who could hit the ball out of the ballpark with regularity. He's somebody who could. My other name is Davis Diaz. You look at his numbers last year, and they're fine. Nothing to write home about, though. However, you kind of look under the hood, and he hit 280 on balls in play. That's the second lowest in the team, ahead of only Jack Bolger. And then he went out on the Cape and put up some of the best exit velos on the Cape. So I think he's better than what the numbers showed last year. I think he hit the ball harder, more consistently than the numbers showed last year. Certainly he looks the part. Certainly he has pedigree. He could be a guy who's really a catalyst in that lineup for them. And I think, again, they're going to need somebody to do that. He's got the skills to be that guy.
Rouge jumping in. I have to concede. I found the Wichita State pronunciation guide. It is totally. So
Totally.
we got that settled. Put it to bed. Coach
Rolly
Nathan, totally. We got these things established here in January this year. I like it.
That's right. Rules of engagement. This is part of this. Boys, at number 7, I have the Oregon State Beavers. And the theme I want to give you is that there's no deficiencies and a huge chip on the shoulder. It is not lost on Oregon State that they were left for dead in conference realignment. They're staring down the barrel of future independent baseball schedules, which sounds incredibly perilous. And they've got the team to take it out on people. They just have a ton of people back. The 3 names I want to give you: Travis Bazzana is going to be a Golden Spikes candidate. Their left-handed hitting second baseman. He could steal 50 bags. He could hit 20 home runs. He could score 80 runs. I mean, he's just a dynamic player. He's Australian. Travis Bazzana will be one of the top players in the country. Another name I want to give you is Elijah Hainline, who transferred in from Washington State. He was an all Pac-12 player at Washington State. They have a coaching change, and Hainline is going to be plug and play at shortstop, which is a position that they needed to fill. I really struggled with this third player, but I want to give you an arm. Aiden Jimenez he was a freshman last year, a right-handed guy with some arm strength. The criticism of Oregon State has been, do they miss enough bats in the rotation? They have an older rotation, but not guys that miss bats. Jimenez is this kid that could do both. He threw 6 innings in the regional against Sam Houston, 3 hits, no runs. So they're still, I don't think, 100% certain if they're going to start him or have him be that moment of truth reliever. But I like Oregon State's pitching. It's just not as certain as their position player group is. But this is they're ranked 7th for a reason. We talked about them even higher than this. This is a really good team. This is the best team on the West Coast.
Yes.
Who has Ocho? Oh, KR. Gig'em.
Sorry, I didn't mute myself. Number 8, Texas A&M. Guys, this is a team that we're taking a little bit of a leap of faith on. I think for very good reason. They're the highest rated team in our rankings of a team that was not ranked in our final 2023 rankings last year. And I think the big reason why we're high on A&M is just because if you look at this offensive lineup top to bottom, it's going to be very good. It's like a broken record at this point, but Gavin Grohovic, a talented freshman for them. I'm not going to dive into him too much, but he reminds me a lot of Josh Young. That kind of speaks for itself. You kind of pair him or with the trio of him, Brady Montgomery, Jace Lavalette in the middle of that lineup. You add a nice piece like Ted Burton. And then I'll give you one more name. Tanner Jones will be the key to their pitching staff, guys. Speaking of Coach Nathan earlier, it was just a real shocking year last year for A&M on the mound. They just couldn't get in a groove. Chris Cortez struggled, and I think Tanner Jones, the Jacksonville State transfer, he's a kid that has big time potential. Up to 95, 96 with his fastball, really good breaking stuff. They're really excited about him, and he's a kid that's going to have a great year for A&M to meet this ranking. But again, really deep offensive lineup, and historically, when Jim Schlossnagle's had a less than stellar year historically, he bounces back quite nicely. So I feel pretty good about where A&M is right now.
Fitzy, you're holding up the number 5. What happened there? Oh, you're muted.
He's
Did
muted.
Kendall violate the rules?
It's 5 names. Just I wanted to make sure we have
now Kendall's not
here.
even sneaking it. He's
not even
busting
bothering
in the front door.
Just no regard for the rules, this guy.
I love it. Kendall, if people haven't listened to the last podcast, you said that Gavin Grahovic, who we are all in on big time, and you were the first to bring him to our attention, he has a bull rider build. So I want that. Yeah. I want that on the record.
Shocking that I'm obsessed with him when he has a bull rider build.
I just love that.
I know America is blown away.
It's amazing. It is amazing. Did we have a trade in the next segment? I believe we did.
We did. Kendall is taking number 9, and I'm getting number 12.
Yeah. So speaking of bull riders, hitting tanks, and really good offensive lineup, let's talk about Tennessee real quick at number 9. And it's going to be hard to keep this at 3 names, but I'll give you 3 names. Cannon Peebles, Billy Amick, and Christian Moore. Peebles and Amick are both power guys. Christian Moore is a kid that, even though he's a junior, I feel like he's been around this program for like 5 or 6 years. Just a really athletic guy. He's got some pop in his bat. And I just think when you look at those three kind of leading the way offensively, Tennessee is one of those teams that, even outside of Drew Beam on Friday nights, like they're going to hit the cover off the ball. If their pitching guys, to me, is average this year, this is going to be a very good team. And that's just if the pitching's average.
Well done, Kendall. That was 3 names and 3 names
only. Look at this guy.
So I did talk about Drew Beam, but see what I did? I'm like a politician. I mentioned him in passing as if I wasn't actually talking about him.
Gosh,
yeah, that was well played. That is 4D chess right there.
I think Joe rolled his eyes at me.
Joe caught it. Joe doesn't miss a trick.
I'm just clearing my throat over here. I'm good.
That's right. Coach Healy, what say you?
I've got Clemson. We're at what, number 10? So yeah, Clemson. And so my theme for them is that with this roster, you can kind of see where I think this coaching staff is kind of heading with this roster. Late in the Monty Lee era, you had a lot of really offensive teams that could hit the ball out of the ballpark, some big bashers. And look, last year's team with Bakich and his staff benefited from having Caden Grice around, right? They'd love to still have him, but they're clearly turning the ship a little bit towards, hey, let's get more athletic, let's get more dynamic. So a couple names there that stand out. Obviously, Cam Canarella. I don't think there's a bigger cheerleader in this group on him than Runes. Was
all in,
just effusive about him last year in regionals and has continued that way. So, but can't blame him. Guy does a lot of things really well. The other guy here, Will Taylor, I guess I'll go with him. I guess like it was a debate, but former 2-sport athlete at Clemson, has all the athleticism and physicality you would expect from that type of player. And he's only just now started to take on baseball full time, and his numbers were pretty doggone good last year as it was. So now that he's not splitting his time with a football field, how much more ceiling can he hit? I think there's probably still some more there. One thing to watch though with Clemson is their pitching staff. I think it's a team that's going to have to build from the back to the front. They return a lot of bullpen arms from last year and add a couple to the mix. But this is the ACC. At some point you're going to need some guys to eat some innings in the rotation. So I'm fascinated to see what Tristan Smith gives them. He was a little bit of a swing guy last year, but he's a lefty with really good stuff. He could be a guy that turns out to be, this is actually a weekend dude in the ACC for Clemson, which they kind of need. It feels like they've got a lot of Saturday pitchers, potentially Saturday, Sunday guys. They need a Friday guy. He could be that guy if it turns out that he's as good as I think he could be.
Love it. Man, it's amazing. Clemson up there at 10 right now, and like you don't even flinch at it. It's like if anything, the flinch right now is I feel like I think Clemson's going to finish better than that. Like it's Eric Bakich has come in and incredible what they've done so quickly. At number 11, I have East Carolina. And I would say that rankings are about how much do I trust the team, because we have nothing to go on except for past experience. And I think that's what East Carolina is right now. They're so trustable. I mean, Cliff Godwin and that staff are incredible. Every year, they're going to be in a regional, in the hunt. You feel like they're going to dominate the American, although the American's going to be a little bit different this year. Let me see if I can do it. The new teams in the American are Charlotte, FAU, UTSA, Rice, UAB. Joe, yes? Correct? Fitzy's like, sounds good to me.
Who could say?
That's what I was going to say is like Rune's. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, sure.
Those leagues are like a pickup basketball game now. Whoever shows up will play them, and we'll figure it out later. Oh, so great. I think I'm right, but if I'm wrong, somebody tell me.
That was 7 names. Sorry, your time is out.
Teams count. John McCormick counts as one of my names. So I'll give you my 3 names for East Carolina. It's not just the name recognition and Cliff Godwin. They've got a real ace in Treyu Savage. I mean, this is a big right-hander from the Philadelphia area, mind you, Boyertown, American Legion program. This dude is a legit power right-hander that misses a crap ton of bats, pardon my French. They've got a sophomore lefty, Zach Root, it's a really good arm. And their position player group's got a lot of familiar names. The one that jumped out for me is Jacob Jenkins Coart, who is this big lefty who was really good as a freshman, a little bit down last year. I think he was probably nicked up a little bit, but he's a kid that could just go off, easy 20 home run, score 1 million runs. He's really athletic for a big guy. So again, until proven otherwise, East Carolina is going to dominate the American, and I don't think we should be bashful about having them at 11.
Agreed. I'm up now. I've got Duke number 12, and I will keep this fairly simple. First of all, they have the best bullpen in college baseball, period. I think they already had the best bullpen last year, maybe right there with Wake Forest last year. And they got everybody back. I mean, all those guys are back. There's a lot of, I think kind of sexy stuff on this staff, but the guy that I think does not get the attention he deserves in this bullpen is Charlie Bielenson. I don't think people understand how great this guy is. He transferred from Brown last year, and he steps into the ACC, strikes out 78 guys in 60 innings. He's like, he was really one of the most trusted guys on that staff. He's up to 95. Like he's got fastball, but it's a premium changeup. That's his pitch. That's the out pitch. He's a slot shifter. He's got a slider that is a real effective pitch. He's got a cutter now. They can run it on lefties. This guy's a stud. And, he's not, I don't know. He'd be kind of the moment of truth stopper type guy, long relief guy, whatever role they need him to be in. They've got other guys at the back. But for me, he's kind of the glue guy in that bullpen that I think needs more attention. Jonathan Santucci, we have to talk about because, having him healthy changes the dynamic for Duke this year. He was a staff ace for the first 5 weeks or so last year. Then he got hurt, did not have Tommy John surgery, came back very strong this fall. Utterly electric. Slider was better than I'd ever seen it in the fall. Fastball was mid-90s. It plays, man. This guy's got first team All-America upside. And so you add a legitimate ace back into this team that basically they just used openers last year, right? They had an outstanding pitching staff using an opener strategy because their bullpen was that good. Now you bring that whole bullpen back intact and you add Jonathan Santucci, back into the mix, and he looks better than ever. That's exciting. And then the third thing is, look, their offense is a big question mark. Out of all the teams in top 25, I think it's the team that has the most offensive question marks. I don't think it's even close, frankly. But, they've done a very good job bringing in these Ivy League dudes over the, I just mentioned Bielenson, but like they've hit on these guys, these grad transfer guys that have had nice careers in like the Ivy and the Patriot, those kind of places. You're bringing in a few of those guys this year that they're going to rely on. A couple other transfers. It's going to be an all new infield. It might be 4 transfers. But I think that the key guy for me, it could be a real difference maker if he could figure it out, is Devin Obie, junior center fielder, extremely tantalizing power speed combination. He's just had too much swing and miss his first 2 years where he hadn't played a lot. It's his time now. They're going to let him go out there and play every day, and he's got a chance, if he can put it together, to be a real difference maker. And they need it because, like I said, there's some question marks offensively there.
Love it. Fitzy, you're going back to back because of the trade.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm on deck again, sticking here in the triangle. We got North Carolina State, number 13. Obviously NC State hits every single year. And they're going to hit again this year. I mean, it's, there's a lot back, but I'm really excited about the additions in the portal. I think they did very well in the portal and in the freshman rankings that we just posted. I think they were definitely top 10 in both of those. It was top 5 freshman class. They really, really bolstered their roster very well. But Garrett Pennington, I think, from Wichita State, and we're mentioning a lot of Wichita State transfers because those guys, there's a diaspora.
Whoa.
How do you say it, Joe? Diaspora? I think it's diaspora. Those guys are everywhere.
I'm
you
not
don't
100%
get points
certain.
if you don't know how to pronounce it.
They're there's really good Wichita State cast-offs all over the country. This guy is a physical beast, can hit in the middle of the lineup, right-handed power hitter who controls the zone, going to play first base. I think that's a really nice addition for them. I really am bullish on their freshman arms, their young arms. That was really the thing that jumped out to me this fall was how many good young arms they have. One you got to know, he's not a freshman, but Shane Van Dam, transfer from Cortland State, Division II powerhouse up in the Northeast. He was a football player, quarterback up at Cortland State. He's still new to baseball, but I mean, it was pretty electric in the fall. I saw him 94, 96, could spin it. I don't know what role he's going to settle into, but just scratching the surface, really exciting guy. And then I guess when we just plain have to talk about Jacob Cozart, best catcher probably in college baseball. Left-handed hitter with power, just tattooed the ball in my looks this fall. Can catch and throw. I mean, he's the guy. He might be ACC Player of the Year.
Love it. Joseph.
That's me. Little tease here. I have a guy later on in one of my teams that might be up there with Cozart for best catcher in the country. So we'll see. We'll talk about him a little later. For now, I've got the number 14 Virginia Cavaliers. My theme here is kind of turning a new leaf on the pitching staff. The last couple of years, Virginia has done a very good job. I don't necessarily mean this as a dig, but they've done a very good job of taking kind of stock right-handers, I would call them, from the transfer portal, older guys, and turning them into like quality ACC starters. So last year you look at guys like Brian Edgington from Elon and Nick Parker from Coastal. And the year before that, they had Brian Gursky, who is left-handed, but you get my point, from USC. And guys who, when they took them as transfers, I was like, I don't know how that's going to transfer in the SEC, no pun intended. And it worked for the most part. So this year they're kind of turning out over a little bit, where now they've got some development pitchers, some sophomores with good stuff in the rotation, in Jack O'Connor and in Hodges, whose first name escapes me, Bradley Hodges. Guys I saw in the fall as freshmen this time last year, basically. And thought, okay, these are their next guys, I think. Now, O'Connor has more stuff than Hodges, but Hodges has real good feel for his repertoire. I really liked, even in his freshman fall, just that, he looked he had the most mound presence of the freshmen they put on the mound that day in the fall. And that has really kind of stuck with me. And of course, O'Connor just has the stuff that you're looking for in an ace type guy. So that's a little bit of a different look for Virginia after kind of getting, I don't want to say stuck in the cycle, but for a couple of years they were in that cycle of just kind of piecing in transfers in the rotation and trying to make that work. So this is more of a traditional Virginia look where, hey, these are a couple of young guys we're trying to pull up into big time rotation guys. And then I'll throw Ethan Anderson out there. Really good bat. I don't think there's any doubt about the bat, really, but they're going to give him a shot to catch. And we'll just kind of have to see how that goes. I mean, they've been a little bit spoiled there with Kyle Teal in the past, who not a perfect catching specimen, right? I mean, he's kind of raw there, but just a superb athlete who can kind of make up for some of his shortcomings and the finer points of his game with the fact that he was the best athlete on the field and happened to be playing catcher. Anderson's a different kind of guy. So we'll be looking for how much that affects him. But look, the bat's just, regardless of where he is, the bat's just going to play. So he's kind of the guy that I think ultimately makes that lineup go.
It's interesting. I feel like every year there's a couple of guys in the country, like high profile dudes who are like, oh, he's going to get a chance to catch this year. Like, let's see how this goes. Like he's played first base. He's played DH. You got Anderson this year. You got Ike Irish at Auburn. And people are like, a lot of people are wondering with these guys, like, all right, like, can they do it? I mean, I think Derek Bender, falls into that category, but he's not going to get a chance to catch every day. We'll get to that later, Joe. I cut your reference earlier. Anyway, I always think that's a fascinating storyline. Those guys where it's like, hey, this guy's going to catch. Like, he's always hit. He's a really good bat. Like, can he catch? Well, we'll find out. And it's a key to all those team seasons.
Caleb Lomavita last year kind of went from DH to catcher, and you're like, is it going to hurt his offense? And he was fine. Hey, Joe, I might throw my challenge flag at you. Can you repeat your names? I had Bradley Hodges, Jack O'Connor, and Ethan Anderson, correct? Yep. All right, so I'm gonna challenge, and I'm gonna just raise you a Griffo Farrell, just because he's if you put your coaching hat on, like, he's the player that you feel like as a coach you could not show up to practice and your team would still have an awesome practice because he's not going to let anything less than that happen. Just a high school quarterback, son of an athletic director. Just this kid is such a winning player and seemed like he was a real leader on Team USA too this summer. Just an awesome player. But there you go. Yeah, Griffo Farrell, definitely Coach Rooney has a man crush.
He's also in the Chesden Harrington Hall of Fame of very typical University of Virginia baseball names.
Thank you.
Well said.
Thank you for that. By the way, Bradley Hodges, isn't Bradley the middle name of Kendall J. Rogers? KR, is that your middle name?
That is correct. It used to be Zebediah, but I changed it.
You changed it, as you should have. There's only one Zebediah in our world.
Zebediah is a real good East Texas name.
Yeah.
Old Pentecost.
I was going to do one more shout out. We mentioned Cortland State. Shout out to the Division III football national champion, Cortland State Red Dragons.
Is that right?
Go Dragons.
That is a
very
fact.
good.
Thank you, Joe.
Hey, Fitzy, it's diaspora, which is a great word. The movement, migration, or scattering of a people away from an established or ancestral homeland.
You're saying the emphasis is on the third syllable, diaspora?
Yeah, diaspora is
I did not know that. I've learned something today.
It's what my phone is trying to. No, diaspora. Second syllable. Diaspora.
Stand down, Rooney.
Stand down. And I'm out of challenge flags. Where am I right now?
Tough day.
All right, I'll tell you where I am. I'm number 15, the North Carolina Tar Heels is who I've got. Got a little bit of maybe more than a little bit of an ACC run right here. So North Carolina is just they attract such good players. Like, this is one of those programs where maybe they have too much depth. They have so many good players. They have returning starters positionally last year that will not start this year because incoming players have come in and beaten them out at prominent positions. It's really, they've got this incredible freshman class of arms. So raw talent is not going to be North Carolina's issue. How it all comes together is going to be the challenge. 3 players. I mean, Vance Honeycutt is in his junior year. 2 years ago, he was a 25 home run, 29 steal guy. We know he's an absolute highlight reel per day in center field. So you have to start there. Luke Stevenson is their freshman catcher who sounds like is just plug and play. They're going to put him in there. Sounds like just a very physical, big arm. Sounds like a future first-round pick. One of those kids where you just can't believe you got him through the draft. And maybe if it's not the shortened draft, we're not getting him through. So Luke Stevenson sounds like that next. I don't know. North Carolina has always been that program for me where you're amazed at the players they get through the draft. The third name I'm going to give you is maybe not a household name. They've got a left-handed guy that is going to be their closer named Dalton Pence. 6'2", left-hander, big arm. I heard Scott Forbes talk to Darren Vaught on the ACC Baseball Etc. podcast recently, and Coach Forbes raved about Dalton Pence, really referred to him as one of the big keys. And I think North Carolina's rotation is it's got to prove itself, right? They may have 2 true freshmen in the rotation, but they're really banking on just a gnarly bullpen. And if that occurs, Dalton Pence is right there because it sounds like a really gifted left-handed arm. There you go. North Kakalaki. KR, the Horns.
Yeah, number 16, Texas. This is a team that I kind of feel like this is their floor at 16. I feel like they have a lot more potential than this, but there's some question marks to this team. And it all kind of starts with Tanner Witt. He's a guy that obviously had electric stuff pre-injury, struggled at the Cape Cod League. I think Aaron and maybe even Joe saw him up there. Struggled there, did not pitch much in the fall. I think for Texas to be the team that they can be, at the end of the season, he's going to have to be his old self. And that's a big question mark because it sounds like his velocity wasn't quite back when he did pitch this fall. And so he's the one to circle for me. I'll give you one more pitcher than one hitter. LeBaron Johnson, he obviously will be a massive key because with the uncertainty surrounding Tanner, LBJ is going to have to be the dude that he was into last year. You could argue that he was one of the top, 3, 4, 5 pitchers in college baseball with the way he was pitching at the end of last year, especially with that changeup. So, keep an eye on LBJ. And then for me, I think when you look at Texas' offensive lineup, I think Jalen Flores is a guy that I expect to take a big step forward. We talk so much about these players that, from the freshman and sophomore years make this big jump forward. And I think he's that guy. He really struggled last year, hit in the mid hundreds, didn't hit for a ton of power. But if you remember when he came in, at UT, he was a powerful bat that they thought would be an instant impact, big time player. And so I think Jalen Flores is going to take a big step forward this year and be a key cog in that offensive lineup. But again, this is a really difficult Texas team to figure out, but it always seems like Coach Pierce and the boys kind of figure things out as the season progresses.
Yep. David Pierce is so underrated as a coach. I mean, just so I do it myself. I don't know if it's because you take over for Augie Garrido and you're just by definition underrated, but you're right, Kendall. Even last year, all the stars they lost last year, and next thing they're in a super regional that could have gone a million different ways. And Coach Pierce is underrated, like the word diaspora, in my opinion. Fitzy.
Thank you.
And by the way, I'm going to break the rule real quick because we've got to mention Porter Brown, who's back for his 25th year in college baseball.
God bless. I'll make an exception for Porter Brown. Well played, KR. That was well done.
Not even Aaron can say anything about that.
Yes.
You know what? We need to get Coach Rooney one of those Max Kellerman mute buttons, or what's the guy's Tony Reale, like the mute. He could just mute
gong,
Kendall.
Modern day gong.
Yeah, when Kendall's about to mention his sixth name, you just smash the mute button.
Fitzy, can I offer you a trade proposal mid-pod here?
You cannot. I'm taking Santa Barbara. I'm ready.
Okay, go Gauchos.
I'm excited about it.
All right, nail it.
I'm going to nail it, guys. My theme for number 17, UC Santa Barbara, is balance. You thought I was going to say pitching because their pitching is very exciting, but I think they're balanced. I think they're, what is it, 7? Is it 7 position players back, starters, Coach Rooney? It's a nice group of position players. That's the thing is I think they're good all around. The name I want to give you, I'm going to give you one hitter, one starting pitcher, and one bullpen guy. But the guy I'm got my eye on in the lineup is Xander Darby, which is just a fun name to say. I think he's a breakout pick to click, and he had a good year last year. I mean, 839 ops, 7 homers. He's fine. But I got a pretty good look at him in the Cape. I like his physicality. I like his swing. I think there's more power in there, and I think he's going to tap into it. He's a guy that I'm expecting will have a big year, and they've got, a whole bunch of other guys back who hit hit for power last year and will continue to do so. So I think it's going to be a pretty dangerous lineup. And then you've got 2 returning All-Americans, freshman All-Americans, I should say, kind of bookending that pitching staff. And that's pretty exciting. Matt Ager, of course, the Team USA right-hander. Big, 6'5", physical right-hander, up to 95, I think, power slider. Pounds his zone. He's a workhorse number 1 who, has upside too. It's a good piece to build your staff around. I think the guy who gets overshadowed, maybe, I don't know why more people don't talk about Hudson Barrett. I guess that's our fault because we're the people who do the talking. We should talk more about Hudson Barrett.
I won't shut up about Hudson Barrett. I only talk about Hudson Barrett.
Thank you.
Well, I was
because we're living in bias.
A million times, but I thought Aaron would get offended.
When we talk about the premier closers in college baseball, we need to talk about Hudson Barrett because he's awesome. it was a sub-2 ERA last year, 82 strikeouts in 61 innings. And it's real stuff from the left side. He's 6'5", 230, physical lefty, up to 95 miles an hour with a I think he's got a change up that's really good as the out pitch there. Slider's getting better. That guy is good, and I don't know that this staff has as much depth as some of the others we've talked about, some of the other really high end pitching staffs, but I really like the top end arms that they're building around.
Love it. Yep. You guys know I wrote up Santa Barbara for the team previews coming out soon, and just their pitching is so nasty. It's just but you're right, Fitzy. It's not 12 dudes. It's 7 or 8, but there's 7 or 8 dudes can trade punches with anybody. And man, the one thing about Santa Barbara is they don't have a field right now. So I don't stay tuned on that. Like, how much does that affect them? We'll see, but crazy. Joe, are you up?
I am. Number 18, Coastal Carolina. Aaron talked about Jacob Cozart maybe being the best catcher in the country, but I think, and that's a reasonable thing, but I think Caden Bodine also in that mix. I mean, just a, all-American level hitter, but also a guy who can really catch and has all the tools you're looking for. And it's an embarrassment of riches for Coastal Carolina that, you have probably 275 teams in college baseball that would love to have one catcher who can really impact the baseball offensively and also not light the stadium on fire defensively at catcher. And Coastal has 2. I mean, Bodine is an advanced defender and obviously has the offensive tools. Bender's a little bit behind Bodine defensively. Behind Bodine defensively, but can really, really hit. Was excellent on the Cape this summer. And the idea is they're going to catch them both. And that's just in an effort to, you don't want Caden Bodine to catch 60 games if you don't have to, right? So whether that's Bender in midweeks or Bender on Sundays or whatever, Gary Gilmore wasn't sure if it's 60-40 or 75-25 or whatever, but both of those guys are going to get an opportunity to catch. On the pitching side, I didn't really realize this until I started really writing up Coastal, but when you look at the guys, they had, some losses in the transfer portal. They had some guys get drafted, guys graduate. They have 2 guys who were big parts of their pitching staff last year that are out all this year with injury. Not a lot back on the mound. So they're looking at a guy named Alexander Meckley, a junior college transfer who just looks the part. Big, strong right-hander, fastball up to 98 this fall. He's going to have to be a little bit of a workhorse, no pressure kid, but they're looking at a lot of other guys potentially starting who are either transitioning to the rotation, freshmen, guys like that. He's the one guy who, yes, it's at the junior college level, but looks the part, has the stuff, has some experience starting games. So that's a lot on him, but man, he certainly looks the part. He looks like what you want him to look like.
Be so awesome for Coastal to have a killer year, and it's awesome they have a great team in Gary Gilmore's last year, and can't wait to spend time this year just thinking about and talking about what an incredible program building job that's been by Gary Gilmore at Coastal Carolina. 19, I have Alabama. So the theme is there was more program momentum there than I realized. And now obviously they have a new coach, Rob Vaughn. He was able to keep Jason Jackson. Rob Vaughn did an incredible job at Maryland. Maryland has not lost a Big Ten series since 2021. Rob Vaughn comes to Alabama. He kept Jason Jackson as the pitching coach, which is about to be really my theme, basically. I have serious doubts about the Alabama position player group when you compare them to their SEC counterparts. They've got athletes. They've got big, strong kids. I could see there's a path to a good offense here, right? But if Alabama is going to be the team we have them here ranked at number 19, it's because they could have a hellacious pitching staff. And the 3 names I'm going to give you are Ben Hess, Riley Quick, and Alton Davis. These are 3 dudes that if it all comes together, I think all 3 are draft eligible. And I could see all 3 kids in the top 100 picks. Like, they're physical. Is Alton Davis a draft eligible sophomore, Joe, or he's just a sophomore?
Yeah, I'd have to fact check that.
Yeah. Either way, let's assume he's a draft eligible junior. He's a big pick next year. I mean, Alton Davis is this lean left-hander that looks like he should be playing basketball. It's like that 6'3" slasher basketball type. He's actually like 6'5", but he's lean, and it's really agile, and the ball explodes out of his hand. I mean, it's a blow your doors in reliever. Quick and Hess. Hess is kind of like your classic Friday guy, big velocity, pitchability. Quick is a guy that has kind of played with some lower arm slots, but he's big and physical, and the slot's a little higher. The stuff's a little bit crisper this year, a little bit more firm. So anyway, if those 3 kids click in, Alabama's going to be a nightmare for hitters on the weekend. And I think that's their path. Those 3 arms are big time arms.
And I'll use my challenge flag here, Joe, and I'm going to pick your pocket because, Joe, you know what? Go ahead, Joe. You can take it. Please do.
No, I was first going to confirm Alton Davis not draft eligible 2024. He's a 2025. I was going to. There's no reason why we can't both throw our flag on this one, Aaron. I mean,
yeah,
we can,
please.
I was going to go with Aiden Moza.
Exactly.
Because I feel like he's actually kind of the pivot point for this pitching staff, because I think ultimately, Ben Hess is either going to be a successful starter or not. We kind of know what that's going to be quick. If they don't start him or it doesn't work out in the rotation, you put him back in the bullpen, that stuff's really going to play. But Moza's a guy that, was great in the Cape. Last year was pretty good for them in a relief role. They're going to give him a chance to start. And if he's as good as he was in the Cape, we're looking at a guy who is an excellent 1-2 with Ben Hess. Now, if that doesn't work, you move him back to the bullpen, and I'm not sure I like him in that role as much as I like Quick or Alton Davis. And so I'm not saying he's not going to be valuable. He will, but his value would be greater if they could successfully start him. So if that pitching staff is going to be great, I think he's going to have to be a big part of it, because that probably means he's in the rotation.
I think the pitchability with him is really high. I think it's, as excited as I am about Riley Quick, and I'm super excited about Riley Quick, and some of those other big arms. I mean, that guy, it's just, it's tenacity and pitchability at the wazoo. And I'm all in on that guy.
Love it. Kendall, you got number 20, please.
Yeah, number 20, Iowa. This could be one of the better stories in college baseball this year. This is a program that, last year obviously had a great season. One of the most decorated players in college, or one of the most decorated prospects in college baseball, in Brody Brecht. Obviously, he's a kind of a key cog headliner of this team. Can he improve his command? Can he have that? I hate to say it, Paul Skeens kind of year for them. Can he kind of be the guy that takes them to the next step? That's a big key for them. And also, I think, Marcus Morgan, it's going to be imperative for Marcus Morgan to take some of the pressure off of him. I think if Morgan can have a good year, it keeps, Brecht from just having to go out there and just be flat out dominant every single weekend. And Morgan certainly has really good stuff, but there were plenty of occasions last year where he was a little bit inconsistent. And then the last guy for me would be Sam Peterson. If you look at just his numbers over the last couple of years, just a really powerful bat, had a really good summer at the Cape, I believe. And so keep an eye on him in the middle of that lineup. But yeah, really exciting team. They haven't been to the College World Series since 1972. And for Iowa and Rick Heller, it feels like if they're going to get to Omaha under Heller, it's going to have to be with this team.
Yeah.
Keep the ball, Kendall. You again,
Oh, that's right.
because of trades.
Yeah. So, guys, I was just thinking about this a minute ago while I had a break. But, when you look at Texas Tech, and this is kind of the theme for me, when you look at Texas Tech, it's like semi-restoring order a little bit. And the reason why I say that is because we've had this discussion so many times over the last few weeks of does it feel like Texas Tech's kind of taking a little bit of a step back? And Texas Tech has won 41 in 39 games the last 2 years, and we kind of consider that as taking a step back. That gives you an idea of just how good this program has been under Tim Tadlock. I do think this is a year that could be a little bit kind of a recalibration year for them. But I feel really good about Texas Tech. I think if you look at their pitching staff as a whole, I think Renzi mentioned when you talked about Molina earlier, Kyle Robinson, you're talking about a kid with just a big-time arm at the 96. I think I even saw him bump a 97 at Minute Maid last year. He's going to be in the Friday role for them. I think he's primed to have just a massive year for them. Bazell, he's going to move from the hot corner to behind the plate. And again, we talk about transfers with Hudson White leaving. It kind of puts the hot lamp on Bazell a little bit to go out there and have a big time season. So I think for me, when you look at the Texas Tech as a whole, those two guys are the big key for me. I think if they have the years they're expected to, I think Texas Tech's gonna have a really good year. And the thing I like about this club as well is just the sheer pitching depth. I feel like Texas Tech typically will have a couple arms you really like, and then you get to the middle of the bullpen, there's a big drop off. This is a really, really deep pitching staff that Matt Gardner has for once.
Love that. I feel like the expression "restoring order," Kendall, is very Texas. That is, I enjoyed that very much. Well played.
Yeah, I just feel like we're a little. I mean, I've even had the thought too of it seems like they're kind of taking a little bit of a step back. I mean, hell, they won 41 games last year.
Restoring order. Love that. Just like the cut and shoot Cowboys this year.
Sounds like something that Chuck Norris would say on Walker, Texas Ranger.
Yes.
I know Aaron used to watch that religiously in college.
If more like elementary school, yeah. Unfortunately,
Joseph, do you have a West Coast team?
I was more of a Xena Warrior Princess guy myself.
Oh, boy. Look out!
I do have a West Coast team. I've got the UCLA Bruins. UCLA. Fight. So my theme here is that, like, hey, this team still has a lot of talent, because I think, and we're part of this, we looked at what happened to UCLA last year and we're like, ugh. And then I think some of the negativity from a baseball perspective about UCLA moving to the Big Ten in a couple of years, which we're all kind of, I guess this time next year, actually, they'll be there. And it has kind of bled into our perceptions of this team, which isn't fair, obviously. And I've been part of that. I just kind of feel pretty meh about it. But then you look at the roster and you're like, oh yeah, these guys are still recruiting at a really high level, and they were really hurt last year. And so, I look at Deuce Gorson, I look at Schreier. Those are two guys who are not just, have pedigree, but they've been really good players for UCLA. So you look at those guys and you combine them with Rock Chalowski, who, has a fabulous name, first of all, but then is a guy who is super highly regarded this year and is going to be an impact guy for UCLA, chances are. And so you look at the totality of this, and sure, do we have reasons to doubt this roster? Absolutely. There's not a lot of proof in this particular pudding, but like, these guys are really talented, and there's no reason. Are they a pretty good step behind Oregon State? Sure, absolutely. But, I'd be more surprised if they struggle anywhere near as much as they did last year than I would be if they're contending with Oregon State at the top of the conference. I think the latter is a lot more likely than the former.
Yep. I mean, you guys know this. We may even have talked about this in the last podcast. We struggled badly with who's the second best team in the Pac-12. I mean, there's legitimately 8 good teams in the Pac-12 that I think are like locked and loaded. I think it's a transition year for Arizona. I think that's a program I'd buy stock in. But yeah, for UCLA is everything you said there, Joe. That they're going to be fun. You're right. The way you said it, Joe. Like I've just kind of gotten off them, and when you start to lock in, there's a lot of good players. Number 23, we call this a fit pick. This is what this is called, the Northeastern Huskies. And I'm in on the fit pick. I'm not throwing Fitzy a hospital ball here.
I'm glad that Runes is enunciating that. That is a fit pick.
Yeah.
Fit pick.
Yeah,
to enunciate there.
There's some tough consonants there. So if you're a doubter on Northeastern, or you're confused why they're at 23, go pull up their stats from last year. First of all, if you're the administration from Northeastern, you need to give Mike Glavin a lifetime contract yesterday. This guy is so good, so perfect for your school. This program has been so good for the last decade in a Southern League. They are a New England school in a Southern League in the Colonial, which is a really sneaky good baseball league. Here's what I want to tell you about Northeastern. They play a really fun style. Last year, they were 45-15. They won 45 games. They won 20 games in the Colonial. They had 5 position players that had double-digit steals and 5 position players that had double-digit home runs. So they're kind of that really, almost kind of like Kendall and I's favorite team of all time, that, Louisiana Lafayette 2014, where they're running and they're slugging and it's just in your face. So good.
Are you listening, Kendall? Are you listening? Go on, Rose.
Couple of players I want to share with you. Center fielder Mike Sirota. So when you think Northeastern, think about their outfield. Mike Sirota is their center fielder. He's a 5-tool guy. He was dominant in the Cape. 18 home runs last year, 19 stolen bases. He's like 6'3", 190, and a great runner. I mean, this kid's a premium athlete, middle of the field, could be a very high pick. They've got a sophomore, Cam Maldonado, another 6'3", 195-pound athlete. Maldonado last year, 13 home runs, 31 stolen bases. I believe that was when he was a freshman. And then they've got a freshman or a sophomore pitcher now. Avon Cabral last year made 15 starts. He was 9-3, 2.26 ERA. Avon Cabral. But what I love is his strike thrower. He walked 12 batters in 79 innings, basically 8 innings. So Again, Northeastern, you're not used to it. You're not used to seeing them in a preseason ranking. But the more you dive in, I'm telling you, the more you're going to like this club.
Runes, can I give you a reason why
diamond.
I kind of like just the cut of this program is the fact that, Mike Sirota is a kid that could have, in this transfer portal era, could have gone wherever the hell he wanted to go. And instead, he decided to stay, committed to Northeastern, stick with the process. And to me, that just gives me a very good idea just where the mindset of this program, the mindset of Mike Glavin is. That's just really impressive to me that they were able to kind of keep a guy like him in their program. And I know it's like a sad state of affairs when you're like, hey, it's kind of impressive they were able, a program was able to keep a really good player. But it is like Northeastern keeping an All-American type of player like that is impressive, and it gives you an idea of just the culture around this program.
The quick point of clarification, because much like with conference realignment, we are all learning and getting used to it here. That conference now called the Coastal Athletic Association. They have rebranded.
Still the CAA, but Coastal, not Colonial.
Because when I think of things that are coastal, I think of Northeastern University for sure.
You know what's funny? When I think of
Coastal,
Colonials,
they're not that far. It's just like, I'm not really thinking of like, the Boston metropolitan area as a,
Love it. Joe, tell me if this is a bridge too far. When I think of Colonials, I think of George Washington renaming themselves, and they almost landed on the hippopotamuses. So can we call this the Hippo Athletic Association? Can we go there?
By me.
If we want to.
It's fine by me. What I'd like to do is actually have like a 90-minute debate with Aaron about whether or not we should. I understand that Boston is on the coast.
Yes.
But like it doesn't feel like
doesn't feel coastal.
That's like the spirit of the law versus the rule of law, What's the phrasing?
Boston's literally on the Atlantic Ocean.
I know, but it's kind of...
go back to the Midwest. Get out of here. What are you talking about?
Listen, Texas elite.
Stick to Edwardsville, man.
I want to commend Coach Rooney for doing a fantastic job talking about my Northeastern Huskies. I still have a challenge in my pocket, my last chance to use it. So I'm going to throw it out there because I got nothing to lose.
Please.
You did a great job. I want to talk about Dennis Colleran real quickly because this is like a big X factor guy for them. I mean, it was probably the highest profile prospect that they ever got to campus through the draft. I mean, it really like a high profile high school prospect, huge arm. Had Tommy John. He's back now. He was like 94, 97 with ridiculous life in the Cape this summer. I saw a plus slider too, like 86, 89 hard power wipeout slider. I don't know if they're going to start him or close him. I kind of had thought, that it's a classic closer profile. There's some talk they could start him, which I would love to see how that works out. But just a very interesting guy that, could be a major difference maker on a staff that really is the strength of the staff is strike throwing. He's more of just power stuff coming at you. And I like that, I like that guy in that mix.
My last thing on this is that, yes, it's on the Atlantic Ocean. However, I think of Boston, I think more as a rivers and bays kind of city instead of like an ocean city. I think that's what I'm getting at here because I understand I'm technically wrong. Like you're not, you don't have to convince me. However, I think of it as more of like a rivers and bays kind of city.
They do have some rivers and bays. I'll give you that.
Thank you. I like Norfolk, Virginia. Is that like because Norfolk, Virginia is kind of the same way, right? I think of that as like,
you could pick a city along the coast. Most of them are protected by some kind of a bay. They're still coastal cities.
Yeah, Boston is the Norfolk of the North. So there you go.
Many people are saying.
Yes, Fitzy, you got a double dip to take us home.
Right, let's do it. We'll end this thing here with a bang. K-State Wildcats coming at number 24, team that just missed the NCAA tournament last year. One of the first 4 teams out of regionals. There's a lot to like about this Kansas State team. My theme is star power. Superstar power, really. You might, you've got 2 All-Americans leading the way here. I mean, the best closer in the country, Tyson Neighbors. I think I don't think anyone would argue with that. I think Tyson Neighbors is the best closer in the country, right? I mean,
at least most accomplished, right? I mean, he's in that conversation.
Most accomplished when it comes to numbers and also ridiculous stuff. I mean, it's 95, 98 from like way over the top, uncomfortable at bat, 3,000 mile an hour breaking ball. spin rate. I mean, it's just a hammer, just a wipeout pitch.
3,000 miles an hour. I like that. I like that.
3,000 RPM makes more sense. It's he's awesome.
Even better.
He's a stud. He's just an absolute stud. And then the other superstar, of course, is Kalen Culpepper, who's going to move from third base to shortstop. I love him as a defender at third base. Really, really exciting playmaker at the hot corner. But you know what? It's a rifle arm that definitely plays it short. He can make any throw from the 6 hole. He is certainly an athlete. I mean, he's thicker, kind of like he's kind of a tank. But I think he moves pretty well there, and I think he's going to do fine at short. We know he's going to hit. He's going to hit for power. He's going to run. He's going to hit for average. He's a superstar. I mean, I think he's one of the best players in the country. So you got your 2 real pillar guys to build around. And, boy, where am I going to go? A third player? How can I limit myself? I'll just say this: Kansas State starting pitching is kind of the question mark, right? Like, it's kind of fringy. Bullpen, I think, is very good. Offense is going to be excellent, and I think they're going to be very athletic. They're going to defend. They're going to run a lot. But I want to talk about Daniel Rivera. I'll throw this guy in the mix. He's a newcomer. They've got a couple of really good newcomers, a couple of transfers. But this guy is a Division II transfer from Southern New Hampshire. One of the best Division II programs in the country. He's a winner, played in 3 College World Series at the D2 level. Quick twitch defensive third baseman. He stole like 55 bags or something like that last year. He's got some bat speed. For a team that loves to run and push the action, I think it's going to be so much fun to watch because of their style of play. And he'll be right in the middle of that. I think he's going to be a really fun player.
Fitzy, while you catch your breath for number 25, Tyson Neighbors. Have you guys seen this? His strike. I'm trying to get myself on strikeout rate as opposed to K per 9 this year. And so the average K rate for a hitter and a pitcher, it's the same, is 20%. Tyson Neighbors was 47% last year. He punched out 47% of the hitters that he faced in 2023.
Can you put that in K per 9 terms for me, Runes? Because that's what I prefer.
Yeah, it was 3,000 strikeouts per 9. That's what it was.
well played. Well played.
It's somewhere listening to this, Hudson Barrett is despondent that Aaron gassed him up like that and then just turned around and was like, Tyson Neighbors, best closer in the country.
I mean, I said the Hudson Barrett needs to be in the conversation, but Tyson Neighbors is the answer.
Sure. And maybe Hudson Barrett might have got his hopes up, though, when he heard you talking about him like that. And then
probably did.
He's a big boy. He can handle it.
Guys, I got back-to-back here to close it, and we got number 25, South Carolina. This is going to be an elite offensive club, I believe. I believe it's, they kind of, Kingston talked a lot last year when they remade their roster about how he wanted to model his offense around Texas A&M from the year before, that Omaha team that just works deep counts, takes a ton of pitches, and hits for power. And they did that. And they were a great offensive team last year. The core guys from that club are back. Obviously, I guess I should talk about Ethan Petrie. He's one of the best hitters in the country. He was a freshman All-American last year. Could have been National Freshman of the Year. He was on the short list. He's a superstar. Hits for average and power. And there's a rifle arm out there in the outfield. He's the guy in the middle. But you need to talk about Cole Messina right there with him. Again, if you're talking about best catchers in the country, this conversation we've had a couple of times tonight, you can't overlook Cole Messina. I mean, he was an All-American last year. I think he's the only returning All-American for D1Baseball at the catcher position. So maybe he's the best catcher in the country, right? Based on what he's accomplished so far. Hits for power and average, and he's a good receiver, good enough arm. I mean, just a rock solid guy. He's the heart and soul of their team. So those are their 2 stars that they build that, I think, elite lineup around. The pitching staff is more about depth than star power, and that's the reason they're 25 and they're not higher. Is they've got a bunch of number 2 and number 3 starter types. I think they've got a very good bullpen with depth. There's a lot of arms they can run at you, like 14 different guys or something who touched 93 this fall, whatever it is. It's a lot of stuff on the staff. They need somebody to emerge as a Friday guy. I think that's really the key to their season. They could be better than number 25 if that happens. And I think Eli Jones is the most likely candidate to be that guy. Junior right-hander. He's got some heavy sink on the fastball, 91, 95. Quality slider. I mean, he got some pitchability. He improved the other. He's got 4 pitches. I think he made some progress this fall with the changeup, the curveball. So really the stuff is on paper is pretty good, and it's like the numbers don't quite match that to this point. I mean, it's ERA in the 4s or something last year. Like, they need him to be better than that. They need him to take that next step and be a true SEC ace. I think he could be capable of it, but I want to see it. So if that happens, I think the other pieces will fall into place, and South Carolina could host another regional.
This was the point in the proceedings where, and we'll save this for the next podcast because this has been pretty girthy as we knew it would be. It was so hard to cut it down to 25. I know I speak for each of us, and we had different teams and segments, but like some of the teams that you just couldn't get in there, it really hurts your feelings. Like there are some teams in the 26 to 40 range that I love and think can go to Omaha. And I know you guys all feel the same way. Like there's really good teams in that 26 to 40 range. And I'm picking 40 as an arbitrary cutoff. So, man, but good stuff. Gentlemen, well done. Always enjoyable in a painful kind of way doing the rankings with you. The good news is we're a month away from seeing it play out. Kendall, you're on the coupon beat. What do you got for the people? You got to unmute.
Yeah, I think we'll stick with Save 30. 30%
Save
off
30
annual. Or Fit 90,
off.
Which is adding 90% to your subscription.
You should
price.
do Fit 3000. Well,
yeah, that's pretty good.
3,000.
Although if you're willing to pay 3,000% over the asking price, I kind of wonder about your sanity.
No, type in diaspora when you get to the checkout. If you can spell it correctly, I'll chip in $20 for your if you can find me. I
think what Kendall's trying to say is if you're willing to pay 3,000% over the asking price, there needs to be a different conversation about maybe you becoming an investor with D1Baseball.com as opposed to just buying a subscription.
Well done. Yes. But jokes aside, this is the time to get your sub. I mean, you do not go any further into the preseason without your sub. We've got the rankings team capsules. We've got all the transfer and freshman stuff up there. And then, conference previews will be on the website before you know it. So let's cap it there, boys. Well done. There is your 2024 top 25 for the preseason. And the good news is, as we said, we will play it out on the field. That's it. Everybody have a great week. We will catch you next time on the D1 Baseball Podcast.